What's going on, Mutha Truckers? Welcome to Mutha Truck News. Email us at muthatruckernews@gmail.com. So I want to talk about this one right here, right? So, President Trump talked about the deregulation of just federal agencies. And basically back in, February 19th of 2025, they talked about how every time they make up a new regulation, then 10 of them need to be repealed, okay? And so the USDOT is reaching out now to truck drivers in the trucking industry and have a comment section that I'll put down below in their notice of published in their Federal Register yesterday, or depending on when you watch this video. And so there are specific things that they're looking at, and we'll go into that now. But the truth is, every time they make up a new rule, they got to abolish 10 rules. I mean, that would be amazing for the trucking industry, because what comes up to mind first is the ELD, right? There are so many problems with that. Do I truly think that the FMCSA or USDOT would ever abolish the ELD? I don't think so, but maybe there are things in it that we can change. So, I'm going to put that link down below, and definitely comment. Sometimes we feel like we don't make a difference, but I need you guys to comment, because I believe that, this administration wants to do right by the industry. And if that stands true, then comment down below, what regulations would you like repealed that are hurting your livelihood and the trucking industry. So these are the 7 bases that they're going under, under the Executive Order 14219. Okay. So there are 7 of them. Number 1, unconstitutional regulations and regulations that raise serious constitutional difficulties, such as exceeding the scope of the power vested in the federal government by the Constitution. So, think about that for a little bit, right? Number 2, regulations that are based on unlawful delegations of legislative power, right? Number 3, regulations that are based on anything other than the best reading of the underlying statutory authority of prohibition. Number 4, regulations that implicate matters of social, political, or economic significance that are not authorized by clear statutory authority. Number 5, regulations that impose significant costs upon private parties that are not outweighed by public benefits. So, that easy, the DPF, DEF. I mean, I can't tell you, how many people get in trouble for deleting their trucks because they just can't stay in business because of these darn DPF filters. And it's just their truck is in the shop every other day because of a sensor or some problem. And, the FMCSA needs to really look at this, right? And I know they were talking about, the zero emission rules and how they don't want to force truck drivers to have to go zero emission by like 2032 or 35 and 2045. I understand that. But these DPF filters now, they're just hurting the small mom and pop trucking companies because you're in the shop all the time because of something that they wanted for better emission ratings. Okay. Number 6, regulations that harm the national interest by significantly, unjustifiably impeding technological innovation. So what's the harm to the national interest? Well, when I think about this, I just think about, they're focusing so much time and energy in automation, self-driving trucks. And I even hear Sean Duffy talk about that you want to beat China and be number 1 when it comes to automation. But what does that really do when it comes to this technology that's going to take away the truck driver from the truck, right? Number 7, regulations that impose undue burdens on small business and impede private enterprise and entrepreneurship. So, okay, let's talk about number 7, right? This is the big one right here. What regulations that impose undue burdens on small businesses? Man, freaking every single one of them, right? And, again, I don't think they're ever going to abolish the ELD, right? But come on, this 30-minute break, I understand as companies and regulations, you guys want to have your own policies. Hey, do with it. Take care of your drivers. But as far as owner-operators and small carriers, I think we're all adults here, and we know within our window when we should take a break, right? And so I just remember that just taking up so much time being forced to take this 30-minute break. Another thing that I know we talked about a lot is, English proficiency. Yeah, that's a rule, but they're not really enforcing it. The safety of that's just so important. I know a lot of people talk about this continuous clock when it comes to the 14-hour window. How many times have you done your pre-trip inspection, you started your day, and then 3 miles down the road, something happens and you pop a tire? Your 14-hour clock is running and is running nonstop, and you haven't had a chance to do anything, and now you have to wait for service. Service could take forever, and now you're burning your clock. And I'm not saying it's right, but now truck drivers are feeling like they have to make up time, right? What about that? Of course, when it comes to emissions, talking about forcing drivers to have DPF filters and DEF and all this jazz. I mean, does that need to stop? All right. I know broker transparency, they talked about that. And a lot of this is crazy because a lot of rules are already set with the FMCSA and USDOT, but it seems like they don't enforce any of it. And that's the biggest problem. Like, it doesn't matter if you're making up rules if you're not enforcing them, right? If your truck is falling apart, you need to put that truck out of service. The FMCSA and USDOT make up all these rules, say they care about safety, but every time they do something, it just never seems safe. So the question for you guys is, at the end of the day, if the USDOT is asking the question, hey, what, regulations would you like repealed and set back? What would that look like? My truckers, comment down below. It'd be great to hear from you guys. And definitely, I think it's important to comment, because if you're not commenting, then you're not helping the situation. And as crazy, as slow as it seems, this is the process that they go through, right? And hopefully with this administration, they will listen to the people. And if they say, hey, this is what we're all thinking, then if you're writing this out for the general public of truck drivers, the transportation world, to say what they feel, and everybody has the same consensus, then why don't you look at that deeper? That's all I'm trying to say. My truckers, comment down below.